Welcome to Thorin's YouTube channel, the one thing fanatic TSM and T1 fans can all agree on.
I like to start my day with delicious gamer sops, and this flavour is quite a nice one. Strawberry and peach. Emotional damage. I know I felt emotional damage when I saw that troubleinc wasn't a full-time person on the LEC, didn't get to go to Worlds, don't see her at MSI, etc. Because I actually think she's really talented and she's clearly got a heart in it, and that's actually her ultimate goal as far as I can tell. This is really nice though. Unlike that sort of bitter emotional damage, this is just one that tastes delicious and a bit like troubleinc. It's got the strawberry for that sweet beginning, but then it's got the peach because you know what? It's not just the nice appearance. There's something there, something substantial. There's that juice, the delicious peach. So troubleinc is a Greek colour commentator and desk analyst working primarily in League of Legends. She's best known for her time on the LEC, more recently the LPL, and at other times, and indeed more recently as well, also NLC and EU Masters. Now, look, this is not someone, by the way, that's like a friend of mine. I've never had a real conversation with her ever. I've never had her on any of my shows, not for want of trying, by the way. I've DM'd her a few times, that's about it. Just a few back and forth. By the way, if you want to know more about her career from her, there's actually a pretty cool interview when she used to work with SK Gaming that they did with her. It's like an 8-minute thing. It's not a bad little profile piece. And in this video, in honour of troubleinc and her Greek heritage, I'm going to actually use a few famous Greek terms, which I'll probably butcher the pronunciation of, to kind of relate her persona on broadcast and who she is to her culture. So first of all, let's just get it out the way. One of the reasons why some people might not appreciate her is her accent, because she obviously has a Greek accent, but with sort of a British twang to it, because she lived in England for a while. Now, that will be a tripping point for some people early. I saw when I looked up some old Reddit threads it was. She's addressed it many, many times herself. She's obviously quite conscious of it. I wouldn't necessarily say self-conscious, but she's quite conscious of it. Now, what's funny about that is that's no big deal at all. First of all, for a Greek person, she has a fantastic accent to be able to understand what she's saying. Think about the first person you think of in League of Legends who's Greek is Forgiven, right? Bro, I knew this guy for many years. I had him on loads of shows, interviews, private conversations. He's hard to listen to. You can sort of hear what he's saying, but it's so brutal the way he says it. I'd even say Comp, who was an LEC winner in Rogue, he has not as bad as Forgiven, but his is still the weird thing about this is why it makes me think Greek must be so different as a language. When they speak, it sounds like the words get stuck in their throat and they sort of choke them out. What the hell? Where's that? It just sounds so alien. It almost sounds like a ventriloquist effect. You can't even tell it's fully just them and the words coming out of their mouth. I don't find that with her at all. Especially, by the way, in these latter years. You go back and watch it at the beginning, she's definitely polished it and taken some of the rough edges up. It's way easier on the air. I actually find it quite pleasant. Then again, though, it is, to be fair, British English, so that is more sort of amenable to my palate as opposed to American English that most people will be used to in movies and music, etc., and on TV. So I actually think if something that bothers her, I hope she does not try to get rid of that, by the way, because she's very understandable. What she says makes sense. It's not like she's slurring, etc. She's able to speak out loud. The key thing I would say is this. I saw this happen with my mate Janko, who's from Serbia, in Counter-Strike. When he first came along, he was given all this great analysis. He worked on his image. He worked on his banter, how to work a desk. But people kept saying, yeah, but I can't understand what he's saying. Oh, his accent though. And it's bro, first of all, your ear tunes into it. Secondly, as you do more and more international work and speak English more, it just takes a little bit of the roughness off, because naturally when you talk to people, you can tell if they're not understanding you, and your brain actually, with most people, will start to sort of figure out the little areas where you got to tweak it, and then you get the unconscious feedback loop of that's working. And over time, it's why if you ever go work in a foreign country or spend a lot of time away from your country or around other people, you'll sometimes come home to your hometown, you'll think I still talk the same way, and everyone in your hometown will be like, where have you been? What, you turned American now or something? Or you bloody European? There'll be something like that. That'll be the approach. So you actually yourself won't notice that it's changed. And this is also why familiarity with the person on broadcast means you will tune in over time. So I actually think for someone like her, I always give this advice. That is your unique calling card. No one else has a Greek accent that's polished into British English, which is naturally just considered, I'm afraid it is because of the American stereotype, makes you sound more intelligent, makes you sound better spoken, more literate, etc., more eloquent, which is absolutely how she sounds to me. And also, because it's not jarring, it just becomes a unique twang only she has on the broadcast. By the way, That is one of the secrets to being an all-time great. It's not just how good you are, if people like you, do you have the technical skill, do you get the opportunity. You want to stand out. You want people to remember you. They might not remember what you said in the game or what that point was in a week, in a month, in 2 years, but they'll remember your persona, the feeling you give them from your presence, how entertaining you are. And one of the things they'll remember about you is definitely your accent. It's something I've actually told in the past privately to Law, for example, who obviously comes from France. And famously, you know, the funny thing everyone knows, like if you go to France, they're kind of a bit rude and they don't want to speak English to you. They're like, but then if you try speaking French, they'll sort of be dismissive too. Well, part of built into that bizarre thing is then when they go and speak English, they all make fun of each other and they're all like, yeah, his fucking English is trash. I think he can speak that way. And they're all like making fun of each other's accents. So she was someone who was quite self-conscious that when she's next to polyglot shocks who can speak every language under the sun and seemingly switch the accents too, and speaks very good English when she speaks English with an accent, I actually, as a very understandable sort of a neutral international tone, I think people like Law got a bit intimidated and thought, oh, I'll always be the person who is talking like this. But what she doesn't realise is I used to tell her, once people know you, the more time you've been on broadcast, that will eventually be something people love about you. That will become part of who you are, and that will be some of the shading in the background of the profile of who you, Law, are as a broadcast character. And so I would say the same for troubleinc. I enjoy her accent. Her personality, let's get this out the way immediately, it's fantastic. Think about on camera, there are plenty of people who have mega knowledge, but they're a bit moody, or they have plenty of knowledge, but they're a bit sort of smug and a bit by the way, maybe I'm in some of these aspects. There are people who obviously love the camera lens a lot, and they're trying to occupy all the screen and be the star all the time and talk over each other. I won't say certain people kill other jokes and respond to them and fuck them up, and the guy's trying to make a point, doesn't let them finish, etc. This is one of the best people I've ever seen on broadcast for not stepping on people's toes, for just coming off excellent all the time. This is someone who's bubbly, they're playful. I mean, yes, you could go back in the day, Quick Shot, etc. People like that. Sometimes shocks. How many people could you say that about? She's enthusiastic. By the way, authentically a fan of the game at heart as well. As in, when she doesn't even have gigs and she's not working that day, she will play the game for fun, stream the game, make videos about it, look stuff up. She just obviously loves League of Legends, not just for the esport, for the game as well. She loves professional play. She's watched loads of like NLC, EU Masters, still getting hyped for that now. You know how hard it must be to go to LEC and come back down to NLC. A lot of people have the ego. They don't want to do that. They've got the hubris. She doesn't have that. She can just actually humble herself and go back to that level and just do a bang-up job. And by the way, she is clearly organically excited about League of Legends. She's not doing this just for money or like, this is my path to get all the attention and the clout. This is how I'll become famous. Famous. I don't get that vibe at all from this person. And so one of the interesting things is I can see how she became an authentic fan of games, because if you ever hear her backstory, a bunch of her family were gaming, and she says that her dad used to play Pro Evolution Soccer, I think on the PlayStation with her, and that's one of the ways that like she was like getting into gaming and getting hyped. If you don't know, a lot of the women who actually are like themselves gamers who grow up, it's usually that they either have the older brother or they have a dad who's super into it, and that's their connection, that's the thing they do together. It's like the shared communal hobby, and that's how their love for gaming, sports, etc. Could even be things like hunting, whatever it might be, whatever angle you want to go with. That's where that tends to come from. So the first Greek term I will use here is marake, and it basically means to do something with soul, creativity, or love, to put something of yourself into your work. That just defines who she is as a personality, by the way. By the way, I personally find her very pleasant on camera. It's something I've tweeted out in the past. So there's another Greek term for you. It's called kefi. And what it means is, when a Greek says it, they're referring to joy, spirit, passion, happiness, triumph. By the way, she's somebody gets super hyped when the right team wins. Mojo, it's that little extra something, that je ne sais quoi, that X factor. Excitement definitely brings that. Feeling good. She is a feel-good broadcast personality. Having fun. She's clearly doing that. Loving life. Certainly when she's working the LEC and the big broadcast, I feel like she is loving life. That's her passion in life. That's what she wants to do. This kind of person who, you're going to think, this is a bit sentimental for it. Yeah, because I don't unlock this side for people who don't push the right buttons, who don't make that connection. It's easy to have that cynical frame up when people, I can tell this guy wants to be there for money. He thinks he's funnier than he is. This person just wants to be right all the time. They just think it's about I played the game more than you and I'm more pro, or this person like is good at what they do, but they can't harmonise with the team. Oh, there's a million angles you can see when you've worked in broadcasting in the industry as long as I have. And I know most of these people. So I've got to say, this is the kind of person, when you see them smile on camera, you smile, or you feel that little, what would it be, like oxytocin or whatever. It's like the nice feeling like, oh, you put them on a broadcast, it just immediately lightens the mood. And I think, by the way, League of Legends desks are very heavy with critique, sometimes even trash talking and bantering players. By the way, it's my style. Scrutiny. Half the time they start by just trashing the team that lost before they celebrate the team that won. So I think this is actually someone who's something of like a soothing balm to some of that stuff, but can also give her own critique. But it never comes off as too harsh when she does it. It's one of the interesting things. If you want to talk about her skill set, I think she's a very talented analyst. Like, she has done the role at like a semi-pro level far back in like 2017. In 2018, she had like a cup of coffee as a coach. She plays the game, by the way, as I just said earlier. And I think crucially, it's not about how much game knowledge. How old do you know a guy in gold or a guy in red? You don't know fuck all. And you don't know how broadcasts work. So shut up with that bullshit. What you mean is, do you like him or not? If you like him, the points make sense to you. If you don't, you'll find a way to make it not make sense. That's the reality of broadcast. That's why in CS, I could come on and say zero analysis and fucking kill the scene. And you remember my fucking skit for the next 10 years. So crucially for me, the number one quality I want in an analyst, as well as personality or be appealing in some manner, is they have to have their own mind for the game. They can't just be parroting community takes or what all the other people say. This is someone who absolutely has their own opinions. I mean, her approach is quite different to my approach. Her approach in League is like, she seems to subscribe to the sort of champion profile archetype approach of the actual character itself and what it can do and how it plays generally. And then from that, she tries to intuit what would the team try to do with this, or what would the composition be all about? What would the win conditions be? So she's very much on the sort of Magic the Gathering colour profile approach of like, this beats this and this works in this manner, and you're going to have these things happen early with this approach, and this other one's going to be able to scale. I actually think what's funny is, that's actually not my style. I'm more of the guy, if I ever talk in League, if I ever talk a champion, it's specific to that player or specific to what I wanted that team to be and could have done with it, etc. I'm more about the team in that sense. She fits the generalised aspect and then connects it to the pro aspect. And so I actually think, by the way, for people who only play and they're casual and people on Soul, I think that connects immediately. I actually think they prefer that style. That's how they talk about the game and the draft. By the way, she has actually gotten in trouble before. You're going to think she's never had any spicy takes. First of all, she has. She's just so pleasant on camera. They don't hit in a way that makes you feel annoyed. But she got mega trouble, if you don't remember, on social media, where she did a tweet where she did a spicy one. Like, stop picking this shit champion about Udyr, when all the pros were like, Udyr's busted and broken. If you watch it in the right regions, it's fucking sick. And here's the problem. People jumped down her throat. Fucking Nemesis was commenting on the stream. Loads of pros were all over it. All the shit brigade from the peanut gallery were telling she's a moron, doesn't know the game, etc. Now, thankfully, that's one of the only times I've ever seen her have a little sort of storm in a teacup, as we say. People make a mountain out of a molehill. I actually think the most underrated skill she has was when they put her as, I think it was last year, wasn't it? At the beginning of the year, when they put her as the pre-game interviewer. I have love for all the people on the LEC who do the interviews. They're some of my favourites of all time. But I actually think she brought something I've never seen to that, which is she did a really good job getting info out of coaches who were about to play the game. Now, look, obviously the other coach could watch, but he's not going to pick stuff up because he can't go on the fucking stage and tell the players. But she was getting them to answer real answers to legit questions which were interesting about the draft and what they wanted and what they were trying to get and what was going on. And I think one of the reasons why it was very unique was this. Not only did she have the knowledge to know what she didn't know and what to ask them, but more importantly, she knew enough about them sometimes. I guess she probably did a pre-interview too, to be fair. That's actually a classic thing that a lot of interviews do if you don't know. But I also thought, crucially, she didn't come off as threatening at all. She never came off as though she was grilling them or like being provocative to them. She actually came off as just non-threatening and actually sometimes a little bit playful, but in a way which made them smile, which made them laugh and made them open up a little bit more actually, and sometimes a little bit more out. By the way, that's not the kind of interview I could do, the Thorin persona. Like, I would like to tell you if I try to, I can, one-on-one especially, I can turn the charm on, win over a lot of people. But that's not my style as an interviewer, is it? I'm sort of the bad boy, and then I give you some respect if you're in like a reflections interview or something, but there's always a little bit of tension there because I like to play on that. That's a dynamic I use, but that means I wouldn't be very good at that particular type of interview, by the way. She's way better than I would be. I also think, and this is my key point, it's one of the reasons I made this whole video, she is utterly unique right now in European League of Legends. There is nobody who can do what she can do. She's in, listen, you might think this is a cursed thing to say, but I always said this person was excellent at their job. She's in the Froscoran position. She is someone who does the expert role, the desk analyst. She isn't the host. She isn't the interviewer, beyond where she does the pre-game interviews. She is there to be an expert. That means, by the way, she's doing the role that is most traditionally gender-locked to men, because there's so few people in the world can do that. They tend to be mega boffins and super nerds. Spoiler, that tends to be men, doesn't it? So as a result, I can tell you, even productions, producers, directors, people who are higher ups often think, this is real, I don't want a woman doing that. Like, will people be able to will she be able to speak with authority? Will people actually trust that she knows what she's talking about? Won't people think she is a girl or a woman, and so she should more ask someone else, and then they should tell? By the way, people like Froscoran dealt with that on past broadcasts when it was much smaller broadcasts, and people saying stuff like, you can give like a point, but don't disagree with the main analyst here, who's a man who's like an ex-pro. Like, you should always sort of cede your opinion to him at the end and agree with him, or build your point into his, and maybe you can give him the alley-oop and then he does the slam. And it's like, no, actually what people like Froscoran came along and did was like, nah, actually I'm going to be the star. You know what? This is my shit. So think about who normally occupies that role. The mega boffins. Monte Cristo, Jat, Deficio, Crepo, Cadril, LS. Would be Dom if he wanted to do it. Zabatine. These are the people who know the fucking game, mate. You listen to them and you know this person knows what they're talking about. Your autocannon in theory could do that role, of course. And that what I love is that she does it in her own way, with her own unique flair and her own profile. She actually doesn't do it. Like, Froscoran's way in a way was kind of a feminist approach. It was like, I've got a punk attitude. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm going to have the short hair that's going to immediately, go like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm going to come at you with harsh opinions. By the way, she was always antagonistic with her opinions. She was always willing to argue with people and start shit, etc. And essentially, in some ways, she was aping what you think of as my style of analysis. By the way, I used to be friends with her. She was doing that style of sort of like, I'm the man, but I'm the bad boy, and I'm edgy, and that's going to be my thing on the desk. And I'll tell you what, that's actually why she got some pushback sometimes. That's why people who could get into the persona loved it, if you could get into kind of the wrestling heel angle of it. What's interesting is, that's not what troubleinc does at all. Her way of getting you to listen to her is she wins you over. It's so pleasant the way she explains her points and interacts with the others and gives them space and doesn't jump all over their feet, etc. Her enthusiasm for League of Legends is just infectious. And on camera, when she gives you an opinion, a take of her own take that no one else is doing, maybe even a take you disagree with, it doesn't stick in your craw. It doesn't inflame you. It doesn't make you irritated and go, I hate watching this person. Oh, fucking hell, they said so much. You disagree, maybe, but you're willing to listen. It's just done in such a manner that it just comes across so well. It's the sugar to make the medicine go down. And by the way, what's hilarious is if you go and look up some of her old interviews, she actually thinks she's super edgy back in the day, by the way. And she's saying all this stuff about, like, I'll say fuck if I want to because it's who I am, and I'm going to give unfiltered takes. It's like, I don't know who she conceived of herself as that, because that's not who I see now. But I think that's just cute as a button. That's like a fucking bunny rabbit with a butter knife, like, stick him up. It's like, I can't take that seriously. So I never saw that part at all. In fact, if anything, I'd actually say beyond that Twitter post, which she phrased in a certain way, I actually think she's somewhat insulated from being hated on in that sense. Obviously, there are other reasons people could hate on her, but that's irrelevant to this video, isn't it? The only other person I think in the modern day who comes anywhere close is Emily Rand. Look, my girl Kelsey back in the day could have done this, but she had to work a lot more on the on-camera stuff, and I think sadly she developed a lot of that too late, and then she went into the coaching stuff. She's actually way better in our podcasts now, even though she no longer attempts to actually do that style. Now it's just like a conversation with her friend. Obviously, Emily Rand is the other person who could be an expert and a mega mind, right? Of course you trust Emily Rand. But Emily Rand's style is very much sort of, I still think she's a bit of a shrinking violet. She'll do a little bit of humour. If she's comfortable with people, she can do stuff, but she will let sometimes people budge and barge over her a little bit and crush her out a little bit or take up too much of the camera. Sometimes she's got some straight fire points, but she seems a little bit sort of apprehensive making them, I would say. So I would actually say, look, knowledge-wise, maybe I give the edge to Emily Rand. If you don't know, Emily Rand might watch every single relevant series in the history of League of Legends. So she does have an insane encyclopedic understanding and knowledge of the game. But I think actually on camera, and this is the role, I think troubleinc better. I think she's actually already ahead in that sense. Emily Rand's miles ahead in terms of the game knowledge because nobody can really fuck with that. You can't make up for like 10 years of experience in that sense. But I tell you what, you can just be good in different aspects and that can be your value. And so to me, I have to say, this is one of the reasons I also made the video, that makes her an instant lock. You just hire her That's one of the first hires you make each season. In fact, this is somebody you give the 2-year contract to, mate. And you tell them, make sure you get your apartment in Berlin. You're going to be on for the next 2 years, and let's work with you. Let's figure out your place in the broadcast and who you'd be best with on desks, and let's get some setups here. Let's figure out what your contributions would be to it. That doesn't seem to be the case, though. So I'm just going to say it. I say it in the title of the video. She's world class. And by the way, this has fuck all to do with her being a woman. Grow up. Like, by the way, I'm certainly more protective of her reputation and her talent because she is, and because of the type of woman she is. But that's also a difference in how men and women relate to each other. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. In fact, the other way around, I think that's actually a very good thing. I think in society, actually, the women that you appreciate and have, in this case, sort of familial feelings towards, I think you should protect them. I think you should encourage them. I think you should be there to try and pick them up when they fall. You don't have to do that to the ones you don't like, or the ones that are antagonistic or that are rude to you and have nothing to do with you. Yeah, do what you want. But I think that's actually a very good thing we can have in this industry. I think this idea that, like, just be like a man and we're all exactly the same. Like, no, we all take things differently. Like, for example, a lot of the men I know are super, super confident. Sometimes, or the other way around, maybe they're arrogant or they're hubristic or they don't even think they have to do any fucking prep anymore. But actually, a lot of even the best women, I'll get to this in a minute, I actually think a lot of them are just plagued by doubt and second guessing and even also reading too many things online, letting things get to them, get in their head, feeling like there's expectations externally from other people that might not even be there, but they projected them out and then they feel them internally and then they judge themselves into, there's so much going on that we are different, and so we can't treat people the same. And this is certainly someone I would not treat in that way that I would if it was like mates with Monty, or if I was friends even with Frostgoring, because Frostgoring was a different type of cat. So for me, I actually think that's an interesting point, because I've seen in almost all her interviews, she does bring it up. She doesn't tend to say imposter syndrome, but if you want to talk about mentality, she clearly manifests some of it. Like, now what's interesting is she outwardly, you won't see it. You won't see it on social media very often, and you won't generally see it on the broadcast. She often seems just endlessly optimistic, and she's always willing to, if you see when she doesn't get the gigs, she's just sort of person. It's not like bitter. She's just like, right, I'll keep plugging away. I'll keep trying. Like, guys, it's sort of almost like the Korean thing. It's sort of like, cheer for me and I'll show good games. I'll just go back to the drawing board and try even harder, which, look, is very admirable. So that's actually going to bring up another word. Hopefully you know this one, especially if you've ever read the Bible. Agape. That's obviously a word. It's a type of love, isn't it? For unconditional, sacrificial love. It's the kind of love that a person's willing to do anything for someone else, including sacrificing themselves without expecting anything in return. And I feel like she does that for League of Legends. She lives and dies for this game, and specifically the LEC broadcast. She clearly wants to be full-time on LEC and then one day be at MSI, be at Worlds, and be on camera, be one of those select few that get to do that. By the way, she'll admit it herself, she's clearly a romantic. She has like the way she thinks of her career is not like some cynical thing like, oh, the money I'm making and where would this get me in my life? And like I'm better than them. And like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like, no, she clearly, this is something that she's drawn towards. So to me, I actually, she says as a joke, like, she never learns because she's a romantic and she's had so many times in her life's been actually in her personal life driven and directed by romance and ping-ponged around the world. And she says she never learns. I hope she never does. That's actually one of the things that makes her endearing and warm and welcoming in a way that actually a lot of people aren't on the broadcast. A lot of people are very jaded in esports, or they just come from a background where they're socially fucked up or they're emotionally immature or whatever else, because how the fuck else do you end up in a video game going so deep that now you're on camera talking about it as a pro? It's a bit like stand-up comedians. Naturally, they're going to be, unfortunately, probably fucked up people who alchemically transmuted the darkness in them into laughter, irreverence, hilarity, a lightness of being, hopefully. So if you ever see on socials and interviews, she clearly has gone through what I've just suggested. A lot of other women I've known in who top talents have gone through, some of the best in the world. By the way, as a quick aside on social, she's also actually, if you ever follow on TikTok, not my bag, but when I've been on there a few times, I've seen her post them onto her other socials. She's really good at doing those TikToks where you do like the music and then it like slams into another one. So it's like you go like, and then suddenly you're in a different outfit to show off fits and stuff. I actually think she has some sort of like amateur background in like fashion and stuff like that. I think I once had a little Googles for some research. And that was something that seemed like she was into, doing some like trying to be like a makeup influencer or something like that. So it's obviously something she cares about. And back to the mentality thing. She's clearly someone who questions herself, second guesses herself, thinks I'm going too far one way, too far the other way. The stress of the broadcast, of expectations, of her own expectations, clearly weighs on her sometimes, overwhelms her sometimes. Every now and then it'll leak out on socials. Now, here's the thing. I never do this. This is something what I'm about to say that I never do. If you watch my content for a long time, you've almost never heard me ever say anything like this. I've done it a couple of times on Twitter for the right people when they were going through the right hard time. I would genuinely suggest if you've listened to what I've said so far in the video and you are like me, if you also appreciate troubleinc and you can see what I'm saying and you vibe with it, this is actually someone I'm genuinely serious. When you see them on a broadcast, you see them put content out, send them positive reinforcement. Not just, oh, I like you, or this is good. Tell them like what you like. Tell them what you appreciate, what you found unique about her or what she did or her place in the scene or how she makes you think or feel. Obviously, be respectful. Don't be a fucking idiot. Just find a way to make an authentic compliment. That will go so far. That's so much more than a thumbs up or a like on a video or like fighting or whatever. Like, make an authentic comment about something that you actually do notice in her. Stuff like that will actually be the fuel that sends these people to the top, I'm telling you. I've done it with certain people, I won't mention who, behind the scenes, and I'll tell you what, I've got a pretty good track record. She's one of those people where I actually genuinely think they have no idea how good they are. They actually don't even think they're special. They just think, like, oh, I'm good and I'm sort of trying, I'll never beat the level of the people who are hired. They're hired, so they must be better than me. Are you ready to have your mind blown? That's the same with Law. If you're someone like Law, it's very easy to feel like you're in the shadow of shocks the whole time. That's why I've always told her, look, I want to have you on my show, but I don't want to have you on my show to like interview me like if I'd had Ashley Cannon back in the day. I want you to come on my show and be the expert and chop it up with me and Monty about League and go deep on stuff. Because if you don't know, when Law's on the OTP broadcast, she has loads of years both as an on-camera journalist and she knows the fucking game. She can chop it up with Zabatine and go deep on all the matches. So I always wanted her to bring that side out of her. I think she's done a much better job when she's got the hosting gigs now. Kelsey Moser was another classic one. She had an amazing mind for the game. She just needed to work a little bit more on what she was doing on camera. She never really got the jobs, to be fair. And as I said, Emily Rand. There's another person where there's times where sometimes she is the shit. Sometimes she's really good. Some of her world's desks have been fantastic, but I don't know if she knows that. I don't know if she knows sometimes she's sitting out in the park. I sometimes get the sense that like she's still a little bit reticent or was that okay? And she wants like the validation. The sort of people I wish I could just be the fucking appear like a little angel on their shoulder and go, it's fucking fine. Keep going, do that more. Forget about the rest of that. What the fuck do they know? So she's someone I do see as quite hard on herself. So that brings me to another Greek term. It's called philatimo. And it is a Greek noun that basically means love of honour. So it's the idea, it's this complex array of virtues encompassing honour, dignity, pride, the ideal actions, behaviours and hospitality shared genuinely between human beings. If that doesn't describe seemingly how she sees how she relates to the world, the effect she has on people, of course it does. Now, we get to a little bit of a sticking point, which is the opportunity she's had. Now, she has a background, if you don't know, actually in Counter-Strike. She even went to ESL 1 Cologne 2016, that one that was won by SK Gaming, the Brazilians, for Fallen Cold Zero over Team Liquid with Simple and Elige. And she interviewed players from SK. She interviewed a bunch of talent like Semler and Pansy, etc. She was on LEC since 2021, but for some reason, she just always gets put into that guest slot where you get to come on for a week, come on for another week, but you never get the person who's just in the main rotation. I've never understood this. And I have to say, what really concerns me is it's 2025 now. It's one thing if they do that to you for a year or 2 years. If it gets to 2025, you have to start asking, does someone just not like me on this broadcast? Does someone not actually think I'm good at what I'm doing? Why am I still the guest? That makes me feel like you're in some fucked up purgatory where you're never going to get out of that. Like, she's on some Sisyphean shit. She can go in and do the best week imaginable. And it doesn't matter. When she comes away, the ball rolls down the hill again. She has to start all over again and go back to NLC. Or do the LPL on the side. Or do fucking EU Masters and then hope she gets the call up again. I'll also say this. If you're just going to get in the guest spots, like, are they only using you to rotate the main people out? What is this? Do they not appreciate your skill set? And so it goes without saying she doesn't get to do the international events, which I think is a fucking bomber. And so another thing I've got to speculate, I don't know her, is I wonder if she knows how to play the office politics of LEC, the Game of Thrones political intrigue, as it were, because that is a very real thing, not only in all talent hiring in all of esports, but especially on the LEC. I could go into certain names that are mega that don't get hired. That's one of the reasons why. They might be better than the person who got hired, but that person talked to all the right people, blew smoke up the right arses, was pleasant in a key way, or feigned some sort of interest in it. There's all sorts goes on behind it. You'd hope it'd just be the best people hired, but alas, there are actually massive egos with some of the people who do the hiring, in my opinion. So one of the things that I think is frustrating is, I want to see her hired full-time for LEC. This is someone I want to listen to every week when I watch the show. Now, I don't actually even think, by the way, they even know her depth. If you look actually at some of her persona on socials and the odd time she gets to do jokes on camera, I'm almost certain she could be used in skits. The LEC could do way more of those, by the way, like ESL style ones. They could do some bangers. She could do all sorts of other content too, by the way. I could see other person who does like a short sit down interview with the person, or does like that Shocks thing where you go on a drive around town with them, or they tell you about their culture. I think she'd be really good for that too. She's very warm. Like I say, she's got a very sort of open personality that draws people in. It's inviting. And by the way, I thought when she did the LPL, it's clearly not just European League of Legends. She killed it. She came in prepared, knew all the teams, what she was talking about. She did a really good job commentating, by the way. And also her analysis was fire. So that shows me she can do any major region. So I also want to see her at the international events. But obviously that's me being greedy right now. She hasn't gone the fucking LEC full time. And I have to say, there's very few people like this. If anyone wonders why does Thorin work with all these women? Because look, certain names I mentioned in this video, notwithstanding, there are times when men do have a thing where if they're talking to me, there's some like ego aspect or some transaction. Oh, I wonder if I'm nice to him, can I get up to this? Or there can be all sorts of stupid jostling. And then when they get there, you're equal, but then you help them up to this way and treat them like an equal. Then they start to think they're above you, and then they want to like get their own. But I don't find that with the women I've picked. The women I've picked tend to be the people where they just do a great job. They're appreciative of what you do. So I pull so hard for her. I don't even know her. Because I think she just has something pure, something in her spirit that I just vibe with. I want to see her one day, like with Thooorin, like with Emily Rand. I want to see her stand at a desk at Worlds. And not to be like, we're just putting her in for like woman on the... No, just to be one of the experts, to be one of the analysts that people want to see and hear talk about the game on the biggest possible stage with the most important games. That's what I want to see one day for her. And so look, this is tracking down the line now. I'm projecting forwards. But if the career path, if I had a choice in hiring, that she goes down happens, I could see one day she could be remembered with the greats. Little Susie, Soy from the Overwatch, Pansy, of course, someone she interviewed, by the way, was a hero of troubleinc. Thooorin, who used to be on the broadcast with her, Emily Rand, North America, Shocks, obviously, Law, Smix, if you know from Counter-Strike and StarCraft, Shiva from Dota 2, Rachel Seltzer in British all the games, especially early on. These are the names that are going to be iconic in women's broadcasting, and this is someone who absolutely could be in that lineage if they continue to develop, they get the opportunities, and they are embraced by the talent community, the broadcast, and the fans. So I actually think, by the way, to end, it's also appropriate, she's called Georgia, because when it comes to League of Legends broadcasts, she's a peach. They say no man is an island. We all need people who've got our back. And supporting me and the content on my channel are the following people: Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, The Concept, Animosity, Banediesel, Ben Glass, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it. Always a special thanks goes up to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where I talk about whatever topics are on your mind? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are, or maybe even to suggest a guest or a topic for my content? If any of those perks or others catch your fancy, well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrill Illuminati today, where? In the Patreon link in the description box below.